Welcome back to another sizzling episode of Wise Guys Barbecue. I'm Vin, here with my co-hosts Chip and Tommy. Today we're diving deep into the world of sub-primal cuts of meat. We're talking about those hidden gems that your butcher can slice off for you. Cuts that can transform your next barbecue into something truly special. How's it going, guys?
Wow, man, that was a great intro. I'm semi-aroused right now. That was powerful.
Did you like it?
Yeah, that was powerful.
Okay, good.
Very well done.
I was going to have another pot of coffee, but you kind of talked me out of it, so I'm good with that.
Thank God. Well, yeah, I'm ready to go tonight. Great subject. We got Tommy here, which is anytime he's around, it's a great time, and he's very knowledgeable. So we're not just talking about our basic brisket and ribs. We're talking about different cuts of meat, and Tommy is an expert at all these things. So can't wait to get going.
Absolutely, Chip. The reason for us being here tonight is we're going to provide you with some information of particular cuts that are outside of the box, what you would think of your normal barbecue items, such as brisket, spare ribs, pulled pork. So we're going to go outside of the box with a few extra tips for you folks. Before I do that, I want to get a little nerdy and get into the science behind the different cooking methods that we use. Basically, when we're thinking barbecue, we're thinking two different methods. A low, slow smoke method, which is drawn out over a long period of time, looking to get a high internal temperatures. And then there's fast and hot, which would be grilling. Now, there are certain cuts of meat that are suited for both styles of cooking. You wouldn't want to cook a tenderloin 3 hours to 203 degrees. It would be tough. You wouldn't want to take a brisket, for example, cook it for 30 minutes to medium rare. You'll never chew it. Now, there's a reason for that. And the reason is connective tissues. Now, there are many connective tissues, but the two we're going to talk about tonight are collagen and elastin. Elastin is basically extramuscular. It surrounds the muscle. It surrounds a lot of our organs. And what it does, it just helps to hold everything in place. That would be silver skin, for example. Most of when you see, you got to remove that silver skin. It's an external layer. That is what elastin is. So that would be something that would be involved in a high temp grilling method. Now, collagen is more intramuscular. It's internal. It's something that is present in all the muscle structures. However, it's more abundant in certain areas. And those areas are from the chuck, from the front of the animal, because that's where it exercises the most. It's the most weight-bearing. The head is to the fore of the animal. Just think if you were a four-legged creature, you would have to support that head on your front legs. So
let's just back up that nerdy comments a little bit. Can I demystify a little bit of that? Because I asked, I knew you. This was your topic today, so I kind of hustled some things that always confused me. So I'm hoping there are other people out there like me that are confused as well. But so I call the fat content of meat cuts like three different things, right? There's marbling, there's gristle, and there's silver skin. One of the ones you had said. Now, I can tell you what I know about those three things, but then if you can relate them back to those nerdier terms and let me know how they work, or even if they exist. So I know silver skin is just like you said, and usually silver skin, when you find it, it's something you want removed. You want it off the animal because it's not going to render down in the cook, and it's also, if it does, which it's not going to, it's going to starve your meat from all that wonderful spices you're putting into it, right? All that temperament. Correct. So you want to get that silver skin off. And then I know marbling is usually something sought after, right? That's that wonderful fat that's in between the beef.
The good fat.
The good fat, the stuff that makes all the wonderful juices that you eat, right? And then there's the gristle, which I don't know what that is. I'd love to get an explanation of that, but it's usually that hard, knobby white fat on the outside of your meat, but on steaks usually. And, I mean, I eat it. I love it. There's no part of the steak I throw away, right? Maybe the bones once in a while. Maybe the bones. But so, Tommy, how does that work? Is that, first of all, is that accurate? Does that even make sense?
No, you're spot on with that. The reason, what's so great about the chuck cuts of the animal, and most of the cuts that we do are smoking with, what you would consider normal barbecue, are cuts that are extremely rich with collagen. So what happens with collagen? It does not break down till it reaches a temperature of about 170 degrees. So that's what makes it so great to be used in a low, slow smoking technique.
So why even the word chuck? Like, what does chuck mean? Like, why is that different from steak? Chuck and steak. What's the difference?
Well, chuck is a primal, first of all, and it breaks down into several sub-primals. In the animal, you basically have three primals: the chuck, the loin, and the round.
Okay. So those are names of sections of the animal, if you will.
Correct.
And then from those sections, you get your cuts.
Right. You get your sub-primals, and then those sub-primals can be broken down to further sub-primals.
That was very helpful. Thank you, Tommy.
Tommy, will the butcher take that silver skin off you, or they usually just leave it on and you do it yourself?
It depends. I can go both ways. Some will
Depends what you want to pay, right? I mean,
right. So if you ask them to, they'll do it, or no.
Well, I don't want to answer for you. Go ahead.
I mean, I've never refused. Usually they will do that. I'm sure most places you
All right,
go.
come on, let's
and
get
if
real.
you ask,
if that's packaged, like then I never saw a butcher rehandle a piece of meat. So if you say, "Hey, you know what? What do you got back there? What are you cutting?" and they're going to cut you something, I could see them saying, "Let me do what this guy wants. He's talking to me." But if something's in a package and you say, "Oh, look at this silver skin. Could you take it off?" They're not gonna.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about a real butcher shop. Like they're gonna custom cut whatever you want them to do. Like the meat locker in Litchfield, you just go in there and tell them they take it right off for you.
See, you're suggesting that there are some not real.
I'm talking about you go to Stop and Shop and everything's already prepackaged for you, and you're right, they're not going to reopen it and take the skin off for you.
Well, some of the
we've always got those requests, and we will
do it.
We'll do it.
So you'll take it out, repackage.
Yeah, you might bring it back and throw it around, slam it around, stomp your feet a little bit, but curse a few words.
Yes,
you'll end up.
That's where that shoe
the customer will end
from.
up with the package.
Got the old shoe steak the last time I went there.
Tell the butcher there's still marks where the jockey was hitting it.
Yeah.
I would give you dog food. So, but all right. So let's unravel that for a minute.
So have we confused everyone now?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We're going to go back to the more structural part of this, but there are some things I love about this target. So when I was a kid, I was about 12, 14 years old, and I was a big kid when I was a kid, and there were down the bottom of my neighborhood, there was a place called Admiral Foods. It was a small market with an unbelievable butcher's section. Friends of my parents, they bought all their meats from there, and my mother would put together a hell of a meat order on Fridays for the weekend to cook out by the pool in the backyard. So that's where I think the love of my barbecue came around. But the thing I loved even more was that butcher shop, right? You went down there, and there was always 3 to 4 guys. They're having a blast because it's the busiest day of the week, and they're thinking, one of the guys is the owner of the market, so he's thinking about all the money he's making, and it's just wonderful. They're having a blast, but it's also a little scary. Forget about the idea that they're working with knives and they're cutting up animals back there. It's also a little scary just because you're intimidated a little bit because you don't know. I want a steak. All right, kid. There's 4 or 5 different kinds of steaks, a couple different kind of cuts, and then what? How not to screw up Dad's, investment for the weekend. But, it's a magical place. It's like, I think, Tommy, you're going to Disney World tomorrow, but this is my Disney World, right? I love going down there and doing that. Those gods in white coats were the masters of their craft, and, their confident precision work just amazed me.
When did you go down there? When you were?
I was like 12, 14. And
So these guys were smoking right there while they were cutting the meat, cigarette hanging out.
Yeah.
Could have been. I didn't actually see that, but could have been, But yeah, no, I mean,
good.
and I think some of that still carries over today. I mean, one of the, the stigmas of barbecue is not a lot of women do it. And there are some, I mean, for sure, there's some great women pit masters in this world. But if you go to a competition or to, I'm going to say 8 or 9 times out of 10, it's men that are competing. So you can get a little bit intimidating unless you've done it. And that's, and I'm going to get back to Tommy in a minute because I'm talking too much. But that's what's amazing about, if I can teach anybody about barbecuing, meat handling, and butchering, is you won't learn it in a textbook. You won't learn it on YouTube. You can see it.
You have to do it.
You can understand it, but you won't learn it until you touch it and you screw it up. You just got to do it. You got to experience it. It's wisdom, right? You got to be like, all right, well, Tommy told me to do this, and boy, did I butcher this. Well, bad parent. Oops.
I think I smell a rat.
But
So to speak.
you gotta kind of screw it up to get it right. So, anyways, I'll stop. Go ahead, Tommy. Continue, please. So, with that, all right. So, come on, Chip. We're gonna kick it over to you right now.
Okay, well,
Sub-Primal cuts.
Sub-Primal cuts. Okay,
Yep.
so what we want to talk about today, and that's why we brought the expert in. Sub-Primal cuts, we're talking about smaller cuts that are taken from the larger primal cuts of meat, and Tommy's already touched on it, the chuck, the loin, the round. These can be a little bit intimidating if you don't know what you're doing, but they're often much more affordable. And when you cook them the right way, incredibly flavorful. And Tommy will talk about that.
Yeah, we're lucky enough not to only have a butcher here, but he's a butcher, barbecue chef. I don't know, you haven't competed yet, so I can't call you a pit master.
No.
But I can definitely
Amateur.
call you.
I'm an amateur.
I'm going to call you chef for sure. And that's what's great, because he's not only saying, yeah, buy that because it's this price or that price. He's saying, buy that because when you cook it like this, you're going to love it.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, so Chuck,
The meat is Chuck. I'm Chip.
Chip, Chuck.
It's all right.
Charlie, we got them all. Yes.
I
Chip
need
was
a lot-
talking about
I
something.
need a lot of names.
Me,
Evidently.
myself, and I.
We only have some non-fans out there.
So we're gonna go. We're gonna introduce a few sub-primals, ones that I have experienced smoking myself, and cuts that are probably half the price of brisket.
Really?
So it would make a great brisket substitution. And the first cut I want to mention is the beef shoulder clod. It is a sub-primal.
I'm sorry. Can I interrupt you?
Absolutely.
Because you know my stipulations of the show, right? I have to drink wine. Okay, because
Go for it.
it's just it's mandatory. So if you give me a minute here, I'd just like to open a quick bottle, introduce it, and we'll pour it out.
This is like a record. This is about the fastest you brought the wine out since we started this thing.
No, I tried to get it
quick on the
quick.
trigger now.
All right, so I'm gonna get that bottle, and then we'll pour it out, and then we'll get right into beef shoulder clod. Okay. All right, gentlemen. Today we have a Barolo from Piedmont, Italy. It's a wine that's brought to us from our dear friend Paul over at Paul's Fine Wine on 132 Mendon Road in Cumberland. This is from the Piedmont area. Like I said, it's a 2017. It's called, what is it called? Bruna Grimaldi Barolo. Like I said, 2017. One of the things about all Barolos, it's made from Nebbiolo grapes. And they bring out a nice, robust, super dark flavor in the grape, right? You're gonna feel like you're tasting earthy things like leather and tar, and some doesn't sound too good, does it? And definitely some cherry and red fruits. So enjoy. I hope this stays in the realm that we've been kind of banging out with our wines. So
We haven't had a
cheers.
miss yet.
No, absolutely. Ka-ching. And
Yeah, so I was saying shoulder clod, beef shoulder clod is something you don't see around. You don't hear about it. You will.
Fantastic wine, by the way.
Excellent.
Okay, sorry.
Half the price of a brisket. But if you're looking for something a little bit different and something to substitute a beef brisket, that would be my number one choice to do.
All right, so wait now. You said half the price of a brisket. So what's a brisket these days?
Briskets run anywhere from $7 to $10 a pound.
Wow, that high. That's unbelievable. Okay, so you're saying half of that. So $3.50 to $5
Exactly.
a pound. Okay, all right, good.
Probably less than that.
And what's, like, if someone were to put one of each in my hand, like, how could I easily tell the difference?
Between
The shoulder clod and the brisket.
Well, the shoulder clod is going to be wider.
Yeah.
It's going to look like a brisket. It's going to have a little more angles to it.
Okay.
Brisket's more
Yeah.
streamlined,
Yeah.
more oval type shape. But a shoulder clod's going to have a couple little angles to it.
And I hope to have videos of you folks doing this on YouTube. And please, reminds me, I get yelled at by our sponsors all the time. Take a minute, stop, click, like, and subscribe at the bottom. It costs you nothing. It takes you 2 seconds, but it makes our channel much more popular, and it makes our sponsors a lot happier. So excuse me, Tommy, but please go ahead and do that for me right now. So all right, that's how I'm going to know it's different. How about cooking preparation or cooking times? Is it similar?
Right. It's same preparation as you would a brisket. However, you want to go heavier with the salt because it's a much larger piece of meat.
Okay.
You will 20 pounds. We're talking about 20 pounds for an average shoulder clod.
All right, so it's bigger overall. Is it
Much bigger.
Thicker overall
It's
too?
thicker.
Yep, gotcha.
So therefore, you want to go quite heavy on the salt and pepper because it's going to penetrate a lot of area.
Tony, I don't want to jump in. Tony, what kind of salt are you using? Like a coarse?
I use a kosher
Kosher salt? Okay.
coarse salt.
What's that Himalayan salt all about?
I don't know. I thought it was cool.
But what is it?
It's from Himalaya. The mountains.
It's pink.
Himalaya is not a place. The Himalayan mountains in Tibet. Sorry, but
It's just
from,
not.
it's from Himalaya.
It's not an
Anyway, there
Olinville.
you
I
go.
thought it was an Olinville.
There you go.
So
Jumping right in.
So the thickness is thicker, and I know in a brisket you have the flat and the point. Anything like that going on in there?
Right. Actually, you have a little bit more going on with the clod.
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
You actually have 3 separate muscles that make up the shoulder clod.
Okay.
One is the top blade, which we're going to talk about next.
Okay.
Then the larger part is called the clod heart. The meat is more clear. There's not a lot of marbleization whatsoever. If you ever see a London broil, a shoulder London broil on sale, that's what it's coming from, the shoulder clod.
But it's not the heart of the beast.
It's not the heart of the beef. Okay. No, it is the heart of the shoulder clod.
Okay. All right. Gotcha.
So you have your top.
See, that scared me already. You just threw me back to 14 years old in that little place where they were smoking cigarettes and cutting meat. All right, I'm back.
Yeah, and then you have the third muscle, although very, very small. It's about 12 ounces. It runs along the belly of the clod, and it is called the chuck petite or the shoulder petite. Only about 12 ounces, but a fantastic piece of meat if you could ever find one, because they don't really merchandise them. It's very difficult. You'll never find one in a store.
The butchers are
They
taking
use
it,
it.
home, right?
Yeah, either they're taking it home or they're stew meat or
Yeah, you know where you can find these cuts, which just came to me because I was doing a cookout for my son's graduation, and went in to buy a bunch of steaks for a lot of people, and the butcher actually said, "Hey, instead of buying all these steaks, he goes, why don't you buy these heart clods and use those to feed everyone? Clod hearts. Yep. Use those to feed them." He goes, they're going to taste great. You just got to prep them a little bit, and they're going to come out fantastic. And he was right. And I got a ton of them for half the price I would buy.
Was that at Tarpey's Meat?
Tarpey's Fine Meat and Shoes in Pawtucket. And I also got a nice pair of Bass Region loafers. No, it's the place. If you're going out, on 95 next to the big.
I'm sorry, folks. I have the best job in the world. I get to sit here, drink wine with wonderful people, and talk about barbecue. How great is that? Go ahead.
Copious amounts of wine, evidently. It's that meat market that is, if you're going out 95 towards Warwick, the zoo is on one side, and there's a meat market just off.
Armando's.
Armando's.
Yes.
They have a ton of those cuts in
Yeah,
there.
I've been in there too. They've got a lot of interesting things in there.
Stuff you don't find in the everyday.
Every part of the animal and then some.
Armando's, there's your free plug. Armando's Meat Market.
But getting back to the clod, as far as cooking times, we're going to prep it exactly as you would a brisket. But as far as cooking times, it's a 20-pound piece of meat, so you're going to have some patience. It is going to could be 15 to 18 hours. So, I mean, that's an option for you. Obviously, something not everybody's going to go run out and do tomorrow. But it is something out there. If you're looking for something outside the box, very economical. Beef shoulder clod.
So like a standard 45 minutes a pound kind of a cook. And of course, you got to hit temp, but
Yeah.
And what temp are you looking to hit on that?
200, 203, the same as you would. But what's interesting with the clod, and if you do a whole clod, when you're slicing that, where you would normally slice a brisket across the grain, when you get a shoulder clod, now you're going to have 3 different muscles, and they're going kind of opposite ways, and so the grain isn't going to be all running through it the same. You're going to have conflicting grain angles, so to speak. So,
but is it as easy as a brisket to determine? Like, are there good pieces of fat that you can separate those?
No.
So that's the trick, right?
You go come at that from almost any angle, and you're going to get
What do you mean?
a great result. Because if you try to, the average cook or the average person is really not going to be able to take a look at it and say, all right, this is the precise angle I have to go. So, So don't sweat it. Just carve it up and.
No, I didn't. But like to the topic, with a brisket, when you get familiarized with after you cook your first one, you will absolutely see the deco of fat.
Absolutely.
That you can follow the line that separates those two pieces of muscle that therefore ends up showing you what goes one grain and one goes another. So I didn't know if that was part of that.
No.
What was the one we did? Vacío? Is that the vacío?
Yeah, vacío.
Vacío. Yeah. Is that the same kind
That is a little bit lower on the animal.
Okay, I won't jump around. I'll let you stay with it. I just think, because I remember it was 3 different things.
Yeah, it's from a different area, which would actually not part of the Sub-Primal whatsoever.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, that's interesting. If folks, I always encourage you, we're here for you. Questions, type them right now and email them to Fredo at wiseguysbbq.com, wiseguysbbq.com. Get him your emails. It's the only thing Fredo does, guys. He reads your emails. So he'd love to see those, and he'll get them over to Tommy. Tommy will reply back on those emails. So please do. Next up, we're going to be talking about beef top blade, where the flat iron steak comes from. Chip, you know a little bit about this. You've been raving about this before. What can you tell us?
The beef chuck top blade it's one of those cuts that you kind of overlook, but it's one of the most tender cuts that you can find next to the tenderloin. Coming from the whole shoulder clod, only weighs about 3 to 4 pounds, but it provides a great option to the 20-pound whole shoulder clod for your home cook. And the great thing about it is you can do it either way. You can do it hot and fast to a nice medium, or you can do it low and slow. Either one. It's very versatile cut.
That's right, Chip. And that's what makes it ideal for anybody at any time. You're talking great value, $3 to $5 a pound. It's only 3 to 4 pounds in size. It's part of the shoulder clod, so if you're not looking to do a 20-pound piece of meat, it gives you the opportunity to do something in the 3 to 4 pound size range. And like Chip said, it's the only muscle that I know of on the whole animal that lends itself to both methods of cooking, fast and high or low and slow. It is where we get the flat iron steak from. The clod is a long cylindral shaped piece of meat, and there's a heavy, thick sinew running through the very center of it. And when each side is sliced off, detaching it from that silver skin center, that's where we get the flat iron steaks, which
Awesome.
can be cut, which could be grilled medium rare. They're terrific.
All right, Tommy. So suggest I decided not to go with the fast and hot. Excuse me. I wanted to go with the low and slow. What temperature are we considering here, and what should I anticipate cook time to be overall for that 4-pound piece?
Yeah, good question. We're going right back to the original standard brisket method. You're going to employ the same techniques. You're going to season it, simple salt and pepper, as far as I'm concerned. You're going to smoke it 250, 275 degrees. It's going to be about 8 hours for a 3 to 4 a pound piece, but we're also looking for internal temperatures of 203. So, and you could employ a wrap process during that cook, but you're basically going to use the same technique as a brisket.
And
It's
you're
just-
wrapping for moisture. You're wrapping. Well, you're always wrapping for moisture, but are you using brown paper or aluminum on that wrap?
Personally, I use brown paper.
Okay, good. So you're just doing it to
Right.
keep that thing.
But what it does, it gives you a great opportunity to get something that's not 20 pounds. It's a 3-4 pound roast.
Exactly.
And
Much more reasonable.
Absolutely.
when you're cooking at home.
A lot easier.
Yeah, yeah. So I hear you guys talk about brown paper all the time, but when I watch videos, I don't see anybody using brown paper. I see all tinfoil. Why do you guys like the brown paper?
Something wrong with you.
Something wrong with his throat.
the brown paper allows for a little more breathing of the meat in the package. So you're getting, in foil, it's more tightly wrapped. So you're going to get a little steaming process in that. It's a personal preference. I
So the
say-
idea-
You're gonna throw
that-
it back on. You're gonna throw it back on the grill after the tinfoil,
Correct.
right?
So the idea is when you wrap in brown paper, the reason for why you're wrapping, first of all, in any cook, is you're trying to get the direct heat off it to a certain degree. So think about if you're smoking and you get a nice bark, right? Everybody knows about bark. Mark's favorite subject, by the way, bark. But once you get to that, the color that you like, you want to kind of protect the rest of it from getting overcooked look, right? You're not going to overcook the meat, but it's going to look darker if you don't cover it. So you go with a brown paper, you cover it. It does retain some of the moisture, so it keeps it juicy, but it still acts as if it's cooking on the smoke. If you go with a aluminum wrap, now you're completely encasing it and you're holding it tight. So two things are going to happen. One, the juices that you collect, you're not going to lose. When you put brown paper, you're going to lose juice. It's going to seep through. It's going to still drip down. It's really just keeping the direct heat off the meat. But in aluminum, you don't lose that juice. You retain it. So now that thing's like braising a little bit, right? It's not just smoking or grilling. It's braising to a certain degree. And it also, that aluminum is going to raise the temperature internally inside. So even if your grill's at 250, you might have 275 inside that aluminum because you're holding more of the heat in that muscle,
So you have to keep that in mind. If you're going to use tinfoil, you got to keep in mind it.
Yeah.
It's going to raise the temperature. So I got to pay a little more attention.
And there are some recipes that absolutely call for the tinfoil.
Right.
You can't really paper wrap it because you need to braise it. Like oxtail we had with Rich.
Read my mind, yeah.
Yeah. So that, oxtail, you got to braise that. You got to really, cook that down. And you want the moisture in there. You want it to almost stew, right? So you go with an aluminum foil.
Thank you.
Oh, that's what I know. And I only know that because I screwed up a lot of things. So there you go. All right. So we understand the top blade. We're going to do it hot and fast. Do you have a preference, Tommy? You like one over the other?
I've done both.
Do you have a preference? Say no.
No, I don't have a preference. I can remember about 15 years ago, I was working in Fall River at the time with a bunch of guys, and just a little story about blade steaks. And every Sunday afternoon, early afternoon, we would gather together in the back of the room and proceed to prepare our blade steaks every Sunday. They used to have these little hand wrap meat stations where you had the clear film and it would be a little hot steel heating plate right in front of it, so it would sear the package as you wrap it. It would seal. Vinny knows where I'm going with this.
I know where you're going with this.
So it would seal the package. Well, and those were covered with like a Teflon cover, and they had a a dial on the side. You could select the temperature you wanted. So we would get our blade steaks ready and go get some Portuguese rolls. We would season our blade steaks up, and we crank that sucker all the way up.
Bunch of vagabonds you were.
With a garlic, salt, pepper seasoning we had. We seasoned them up, and we threw those things on that heating pad, and they started sizzling, and you could smell it throughout the entire store. Everybody was coming over to the window like, what's going on?
The hell are you guys cooking back there?
We would literally about a minute or two on each side, flip it over, and these were like half-inch thick steaks. They weren't thin, but they weren't thick. But I'm telling you, really quick sear on each side. They were still
procurement
medium rare in
office is
the
saying,
middle.
why are they going through so many wrapping stations at that butcher shop? What are they cooking on these
Yep.
bastards?
Probably the most flavorful cut of meat on the entire animal. It's just that blade steak. Now you can get the flat iron steaks out of it, but they also do, and that's when you cut horizontally through the muscle. You can do what we call chicken steaks when you're cutting down vertically into a cross cut. But that'll reveal that very thick layer of like sinew that runs through it. But that does not cook down, however, so you'll just have to
Eat around it.
you have to eat around it. That might be some of the
Eat around
the only
it.
negative aspects I could attribute to a flat iron, but just ignore it.
All right. Now, I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to move on to Chuckie. Ah! That always scares me. That stupid doll. By the way, go out and see Beetlejuice. It's a great movie. You're going to love it. Beetlejuice. Screw you. I'm not going to flip you off. But anyways, great movie. Get out there and see it. Paramount Pictures is paying me a good sum of money to say that. Anyways, Chuckie. I love me a good chuck roast, Tommy. What makes this cut so special?
Well, what's so special about it is that you can produce something other than pulled pork from it. It'll be great for use in pulled beef. Now, when do you ever hear of pulled beef?
I never.
Does anybody go anywhere and see pulled beef on a menu?
I don't.
No.
Why
always
not?
wondered about
Why
that.
not? We
Always
love
wondered about
brisket.
that.
We love steak. Why not pulled beef? But that's what a Chuckie is. A Chuckie is a boneless chuck roast, basically. It comes from the chuck roll, another Sub-Primal from the primal beef chuck. The shoulder clod sits on top of the scapula bone, and the underblade chuck sits on the bottom. That's where we get our Chuckie from. And what we're going to do with that, for smoking, we're going to season it a little bit differently than a pork butt. Personally, I wouldn't want to put any sugars or anything sweet on it, but you just want to season it simply with salt and pepper, and we're going to smoke it at about 250, 275, exactly as you would a pork butt, and it's going to be about the same amount of time, maybe a little bit less because there's no bone, 8-10 hours on average, and what you'll end up with is a great piece of meat where you could literally pull with your hands.
It just falls right
And
apart.
you'll just have pulled beef.
And it's got a ton of connective tissue and fat in that cut, correct?
Absolutely. And that's what it's basically equivalent to the pork butt. They're
Super
both
tender.
The chuck.
Yep.
So, I think I know what you mean, but explain to our viewers, what do you mean pull the meat? Like, what does that mean?
Well, pulling, you could use hands or you can use utensils. But what you're doing is once the meat gets to about 203 degrees and all that collagen has been rendered, you're going to be able to literally just flake it apart.
Yeah, pull
with
it
your
apart,
hand.
right?
You could literally do it with your hands.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the best tool.
They have those reverse claws. You look
Yeah,
like Wolverine kind
I
of a thing.
find those comments. So just get in
Really?
there with your hands.
My wife
Just-
uses like 2 forks in each hand.
Yeah,
And she just kind of tears them with the forks. But just get your hand, you say, huh?
I just go at it by hand. That's
Yeah.
all.
There you go. Grab that meat.
So
by
you're
the
pulling
hand.
your meat
Yeah.
by hand.
I mean,
is that about it?
I worked for years with meat cutters wearing gloves. And
Nah.
I never wore a glove the entire time. And every time I was
That's
looked
called
at,
that's
you don't
called the
wear a glove,
stranger.
I have to feel it. You have to feel it.
Oh, God, this is going. All right, we're going. This is getting
I mean, does
X-rated
artists wear
tonight.
gloves?
No.
No, they don't, Tom.
This is like turning into a Deadpool.
Turning into
This
an
movie.
8th grade science class. Oh, you pulled your meat? Really? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, this got a little too geeky.
No, not that.
No, you're doing fantastic. It's me and Vin that are a problem.
Tommy was, all right, we're going to come clean. Tommy was paranoid. He's like, look, the only way to talk about this is talk about it. It's going to sound like nerdy. And I'm like, Tommy.
Yeah, I'm like the flat.
No, but it's so important. And I know I'm going to get support on this if Fredo ever passes me my goddamn email. It's the vocabulary. If you learn just a few of these words, these terms, when you go to talk to your butcher, and you shouldn't talk at him, you should talk to him and ask him questions, but use some of these vocabularies and say it. You saw it here. I don't know if you ever heard of it. A bunch of wise guys have a podcast, and they were telling me about different cuts of meats and different ways of cooking them and preparing them. And this is what I heard. They just bunch of idiots, or what can you tell me? And you will hear identical information, maybe presented a little differently, but for sure it'll be identical information. So that's cool stuff. So now, here's a question. You got the pulled beef. I know when I prepare the pulled pork, sometimes, maybe because I overcooked it, or maybe because it was the day after the cook, that pork gets dried out. Does that happen to the beef, or does it retain enough of the fats behind that you can reheat that sucker?
Yeah, you're talking reheating process?
Yeah, I'm talking 4 hours after the shred.
Yep.
Or, even the next day out of the fridge. Can you microwave it and have it come back just as juicy, or is it going to be?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
In fact,
right?
I would strongly recommend any leftover next day barbecue to just microwave it quickly and as fast as you could, just to get some heat on it. Because any heating up in an oven or anything like that is just going to
dry it out.
It's going to dry it out. It's going to cook it further. All you want to do is get some quick heat on it just to warm it up.
Sure. No, that's going to be delicious. That's what. See, I think. So I'm a big sucker with these cooks for breakfast the next day, and of course you can do both pulled pork and pulled beef. But I got to think that pulled pork for me the next day is always a little dry. So that's where, hey, it's fine if you want to put some barbecue sauce on it, put it in a nice Hawaiian roll. It's delicious. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't eat it. I'm just saying you got to kind of prepare it differently. Where a piece of meat, because I'll purposely, if I cook like a ribeye roast or something, there are pieces of that we'll cut, and we won't save it as a cut piece of meat. We'll save it as just ends that we'll carve up the next day, heat up, and it goes into my frittata or it goes into my, it's just wonderful flavor that you're not going to get from dropping in pieces of ham, right? It's not going to happen. We'd like to thank our sponsors today. We have two to mention, and Chip, one of our new ones, the Sandwich Shack. You're very familiar with that establishment. Could you tell us more about that?
Sure. Sandwich Shack in 9 Cedar Swamp Road in Smithfield, Rhode Island, is a relatively new lunch spot. And I say lunch because they're open from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Go see Gary there. He makes unbelievable sandwiches. He's got a lot of different things that you might not find at your average sandwich joint. Try their newest thing, which is their chopped Italian grinder, and it's a game changer. Trust me.
Chopped Italian grinder.
Yes.
How is it chopped? Like, what do you mean? Have you had it?
It's a little bit of a secret, but think of how you chop up your pork, your pig.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, make an Italian grinder and give it the chop. All right? But and then they have some other little tricks they throw in there. But it's a fantastic sandwich, and all the ingredients are as fresh as you can get. Their bread, which we all know is the secret to a good sandwich shop, is if they have good bread, and their bread there is tremendous. So it's 9 Cedar Swamp Road in Smithfield, which, if you know the Apple Valley Mall, there's the McDonald's down there in the corner by TJ Maxx. You just bang a right there, and the next plaza on your right, that's where the Sandwich Shack is. And you can get all their information at sandwich-shack.com or on Facebook.
Nice. So our next sponsor is Spidell Watch and Watch Bands. I just want to take a little bit and tell you a quick story about this place. So they're over in Providence. They're on Wayland Avenue in Providence. And, I don't know if you guys are familiar at home where you're listening with the name Spidell. It's one of the oldest watch manufacturers, I think, in the country back from the early 1900s. And I wanted to get a watch fixed, and it was nothing special in the way of a watch. It was a Seiko watch, but it was given to me by my oldest son, who's in his 30s now. So this thing, God, he gave it to me through his mom probably when he was 12. So it's decades old. And it stopped working, and I knew it wasn't the battery because I changed the battery a bunch of times. So I wanted to fix it. Anybody else would have thrown it away and just bought a new watch, and no way I could do that to this watch. It was just sentimentally too important to me, and I had to get it fixed. So I went down there, and funny enough, right, you walk in and you see the kind of work they're doing, and there's some great watch brands there that they sell. I'm one of those guys, one and done when it comes to watches. I don't change my watch styles very often. But anyways, when I kind of presented the Seiko, I was a little nervous about what they were going to think about fixing it. I didn't even know if they could fix it being so old. But they were amazing. They took so much care and respect in first, my watch, because that's their job, but also in me and my order to get the watch repaired. It was just fantastic. I truly appreciate them, and I appreciate the way they made me feel in the process of repairing this very simple but important timepiece that I own. So of course I went back. I had to go back. I had a bunch of other watches that had batteries dead, and it just needed batteries. But they don't care. They'll fix any watch. They'll fix. It's important that their customers happy. And they got some fantastic stuff in store. So they've been a pretty steady sponsor of us now, and I did want to share that story because I think that was one of the reasons why I was happy to approach them about a sponsorship, and they were very kind. And what they give us, they don't even give us money to keep the lights on, but they also give us wonderful takeaway swag that we share with our listeners. So please. Get involved with our contests, and what you'll win is wonderful stuff from Spidell. If you're looking to upgrade your wrist game, look no further than Spidell. Combining over a century of craftsmanship with modern style, Spidell watch bands are a perfect blend of durability, comfort, and elegance for any occasion. Don't just wear a watch, wear a Spidell. Okay, next up is our country-style pork spare ribs. This is an interesting topic that Tommy will talk about with us, simply because it's almost a lie. It's an alias, AKA not real spare ribs. So this is the wise guy of spare ribs. I mean, if you were laminate, right? If you were well, that's the wrong. That's not right.
I forgot all about it, and it just dawned on me right there. This guy used to DJ.
Oh no!
Yes, he
did. Don't go there. How can you?
Yes, he did. I'm blowing you up.
How can you say that?
That's why he plays with this thing so much, man. He used to have a whole setup.
I wish
back in the day.
I wish I could
Wow,
see.
did that just come rushing back to me?
Oh, no,
you at the DJ booth.
That was not good. I don't like that.
How you doing?
I think enough of a beating.
All right. Anyways, yeah. If you were laminate and you needed some witness protection, you could call yourself a country style pork spare rib, because nobody would think you were a rib, because you're not. Tommy, what am I talking about? Fill them in. You were wondering the same thing, right?
A country style rib. Well, actually, they're not ribs at all.
They're an associate of the rib. One of our a friend of a friend of ours.
That's how he knows the guy.
No rib in country style spare ribs.
This rib knows a guy.
Yeah, so what is it then? If it's not a rib, why is it a country style spare rib? Well, what they are precisely is they're cut from the blade end of a pork loin. So it's actually from the loin. It's on the blade end, which joins up with the pork shoulder. So you're in that area. So therefore, on this blade end, you're going to have a lot more connective tissue, a lot more separations in the muscle, much more flavor, a lot more tenderness. And what they are, basically, there are about 1.5 inch thick blade pork chop. They're sliced right through as if a chop, and then they're cut crosswise and then folded over and presented that way. And
Is there any bone in them at all?
there is bone, very little, but the bone is not a rib bone, obviously.
So where did this name come from? That
Good
is the question.
We were just looking it up, and we saw a lot of information regarding the cut of meat and what it is characteristically, but nothing as far as the origin of it being dubbed country style.
Yeah, the closest we can come to figure out was that the way it's cut, it resembles a piece of rib, and therefore the way it gets cooked like a rib, but it's not a rib, and it's got no bone in it.
And you
or a
can
little
braise
bone.
it in some cases, boil it. There's a lot of rustic type cooking styles you can use with it, I guess.
A lot of meat. There's a lot of meat in these compared to what you would think you would have in a back rib or a St. Louis rib. They're very, very meaty, and you would basically would prepare them in the same way, do a nice rub as you would ribs, and smoke at 250 for maybe about 6 hours. You want to do the same thing, maybe a few hours into the smoke, and pull them, wrap them in foil, add whatever seasoning or I usually do butter and brown sugar.
I've heard some people put an apple juice in.
You can do apple
when
juice,
they put it in the
apple
tin
cider
foil.
vinegar.
Yeah,
Just to-
apple cider. Yeah,
Apple cider.
and
Yeah,
it
you
just
need
gives
some,
that little braise period
Need some acid in there.
for them to really
But you have a
soften
little
up and break down.
You have a little trick, Tommy, on that. I mean, why don't you share the trick you have
on the,
on the barbecue spare rib? After you get it all nice and tender in the braising process, don't you take it out and drop it back directly on the grill to kind of?
oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, sear it like I say sear it. That's a wrong word. Just
Yeah,
kinda,
well, you definitely want to remove it from the foil and give it some more time in the smoker with a little bit of sauce, just to caramelize that sauce, set it up so you have a nice glazed finish. And man, I'm telling you, great alternative to a rib. And you're going to find them regularly about half the price of ribs. Every now and then you'll see a back rib price or a St. Louis rib price that will equal what you would pay every day for a country style spare rib. But great economical option.
And maybe that's where the country style rib comes from too. I mean, the name, maybe it got popular because you said it's a little less expensive, and so the people that live out in the agricultural communities and stuff would go and buy these instead of a more expensive cut.
Yeah, I think like anything else, I think somebody just bumped into it, because if you take the piece out of a bowl and serve it to yourself and you look at it, you're like, is this a rib? But right away, there's no bone, right? So it's nothing on the bone. So you're almost thinking, did somebody debone these ribs? And then you cut into it, and there's like a fatty content, and breaks apart, and then it tastes like a rib. So it's like, yeah, this is a rib, but so they ask somebody, and they say, well, what kind of a rib is this? And it's not a rib. So they say, oh, it's a country style rib. It's what it is. Yeah, that's the ticket.
Make a sandwich out of it.
Yeah, that's different. We covered some great beef and pork options, but let's no longer forget about our other friends in the meat cabinet. And if there's one person who could be creative in that meat cabinet,
One person knows about a meat cabinet.
that would be my buddy
It
Charlie.
would be me.
I've once watched this man eat a pint of Chinese lo mein with a pliers. Okay, now it was unique.
You're getting
to
back
say-
at me for the DJ revelation.
So,
Okay,
so
fair
it
enough.
was unique, and you can imagine what this guy could do with other wonderful processed meats. Chip, what do you got for
That
us?
is an absolutely true story, and they weren't like clean pliers. I had nothing to eat. It was pliers in my fingers. All right, it was pliers. Wow, where'd you pull that one out of? Touche, sir. Yes, listen, a good smoked meatloaf. Listen, I'm a meatloaf guy. I know people, it skeeves a lot of people out for some reason, but I'm a meatloaf guy. If I go into a restaurant and they got meatloaf, they could be the finest restaurant in the country and have the best steak and everything. God help me, I order the meatloaf. It's just it's a problem I have.
All right, so here's a question.
Yeah.
If there's meatloaf and shepherd pie, which one are you picking? Because they're similar but
Well,
different.
I'm gonna go with the meatloaf.
I gotta go with the meatloaf, too.
just because I want to taste it separately. You know, the shepherd's pie to me has always been somebody taking some meatloaf and the mashed potatoes and just
Right.
and then giving it to you. And
But there's
throwing some peas in
mashed
it.
potatoes good. There's beef good. There's onions good.
Yeah, but there's something about the texture of a meatloaf. To me,
Yeah.
the meatloaf has a nice firm texture, something that's going to work against
it's
you a
true.
little bit. And a shepherd's pie, just
Well, crumbly.
Yeah, crumbly.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
And they're
I
both
get it.
great.
That-
Don't get me
that-
wrong,
that-
but for
that-
me, it's just a textural thing.
Two
and
different
that's
things.
it.
Spot
to
on.
me.
It's like kind of like a banana bread compared to a fruitcake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
For all you non-meat eaters at home, there you go. Now
So,
you get it.
I don't know if there's any banana fruitcake eaters out there either.
We have vegans. We have vegans. They watch us to hate us. Thank you very much.
There we go.
When's the
Cheers
last
to you.
time anybody had fruitcake?
Exactly.
I don't know if I've ever had it.
Oh, no, yeah, that's another thing.
You only have to have it once. It stays with you forever.
I love fruitcake. That stuff that comes in the tin can. You know,
What is that grape-colored jellied thing in the middle? What is that? It's not a fruit. It's not a fruit.
You know what? I think it goes back to my younger, fatter days when the fruitcake was always nobody would eat it. So there was always
Monday,
plenty.
Tuesday, Wednesday. Fatter days? What day is that?
Fatter days. It's like for you guys, it's Saturday. For me, it's
30
Saturday.
pounds, those things.
They do.
A fruitcake.
But
You
nobody
need
ever
a
ate it. so
wheelbarrow to
yeah.
get into the
there
house.
there was always plenty around. So I would just sneak a cut here and there, and you get the god awful maraschino cherries in it. Oh, anywho,
Yeah.
I'll digress there. Yeah, a good meatloaf. I'm a basic guy. I don't put a whole lot of stuff in my meatloaf. Maybe some onions, maybe a few peppers if I'm feeling crazy. A little bit of a really nice barbecue sauce, not too strong. Then you just smoke it to 250 like you would anything else, and it comes out great. You want to add some bacon across the top. Excellent choice. Then you just put a little more sauce and glaze it up, and it looks and smells fantastic. Yeah, if you're a meatloaf guy, it's a worthwhile project. What about another one of my favorites, the smoked bologna, Tommy?
Oh, yeah, bologna. Who has anybody ever had a fried bologna sandwich?
I have.
I have.
I mean, I grew up
And
with
I'm not
fried
embarrassed.
bologna.
I'm
Come
not
on.
embarrassed to say.
And that's the inspiration for smoked beef bologna.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be very, very simple. First of all, it's a fully cooked product. So we're not there's nothing dangerous with temperatures. It's fully cooked. You're just going to bring it up to a certain heat. But anyways, as far as preparation, I would suggest, and I see a lot of people doing this, first of all, you got to get a hunk of bologna. Go to your deli, your nearest deli or supermarket, and rather than ordering it sliced, just ask them for a 3-pound piece of bologna, 2 pounds even. And what you want to do is you're gonna have to season it first before you put it in the smoker. Get your smoker running at about 250, and you'll have to use a mustard binder. So you just take mustard and just slather it all around the outside of the bologna. That way the rub can adhere to it. It'll stick to it. Otherwise, it would just roll right off. There's really no moisture on the outside of a bologna, obviously.
A good tip there, Tommy, is to make maybe some crisscross diamond cuts in the outside of the bologna, kind of open up a little bit, get that mustard in those cracks as well. 'Cause,
Exactly.
Sometimes there's a little casing skin on the outside of that. So the more you can get actually down into the meat a little bit, not real deep, maybe 1/4 of an inch, but you can get open those crevices up. It gets some mustard in there, and it's delicious. I'm sorry I interrupted. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so you get it ready for the smoker. You've got your seasoning on it, and you want to cook it for maybe 2 to 3 hours. It might not even take that long. You're just basically trying to get it cooked through, and you don't have to worry about internal temperatures, like I said, because it's fully cooked. So it's a very quick, easy process, and
Makes a
make
great-
great sandwiches.
Great
So,
sandwiches. If you want a perfect example of the smoked bologna, Woods Pit Barbecue in Bantam, Connecticut. I wrote an article on it on RI Barbecue News. You can find it there, ribarbecuenews.com. Woods Pit Barbecue review, and my son ordered it, and wow, they just do a fantastic job with that sandwich. And so if you're ever driving through the small town of Bantam, Connecticut, lost or for some reason, check out Woods. They have a great smoked bologna.
Yeah, so here's something interesting too. When you after you smoke the bologna, it's interesting, right? Because first of all, with all meats, and I think they're relatively the same. I'm going to look it up for the next show. There's almost so much time you can have meat in a smoker where it like chemically it will absorb the smoke. After a certain amount of process, it just
stops, right?
It just you continue to cook it, but it won't add any more smoke flavor to the product because it's done. What I like to do, and here's a little technique because I'm fat. Take that 3 or 4 pound piece that Tommy told you about that you just seasoned up and fully smoked after 3 hours, and cut yourself a nice 1/2 inch, maybe even a little thicker, 3/4 of an inch piece off of it. And then what you're going to do with that is you're going to either fry it up in a pan, or you're going to grill it on your grill. Either way. But here's the interesting part: just like a fruitcake, you could cut little holes in that bologna steak, if you will, and put things like garlic, right? Some ham, even, right? You can get some really, here's my favorite. You get some jalapeno.
Sounds like my good friend, the olive loaf.
Yeah, exactly what you're talking
Ever get
about.
a pit in one of those every now and then? The olive loaf.
Ouch! Twice.
That was this too. It's right here.
So, no, you can really season that thing up internally still because, you're not done dicking around with it. So you can go ahead and season it up and then get it in a frying pan, get it in a grill, and that just adds to the flavor of the smoke you just put in there. There are ways to compound your cooks that just add different levels of complexity to it. Okay.
And while you're at it, when you're smoking your clod, your top blade, your Chuckie, your country style spare rib, while you're at it, throw in a baked potato. Put a nice big 2-pound russet potato in there, scrub it, wash it, and smoke it along with it, and you'll have a great side dish. About 2 or 3 hours, nice smoked potato.
All right. Best part of the show. Fredo's not here tonight to haunt us, thank goodness. But he did pick this email. It was kind of evident that he would pick this email. And I just he has a note on this email, and it says, please, whoever reads it, please make sure you get through the PS at the bottom of the email. It's important. So anyways, here we go. Hey, Chip, this is Deirdre, a loyal listener of the podcast.
Hi, Deirdre.
I'm writing to you because I wasn't too happy with how you treated Samantha's email last week. I get that you're the guy who likes to tell jokes, but there's a big difference from having a laugh and just being mean. Samantha put herself out there with the what are you doing? With the made guy or whack story. It was creative, and it showed the passion that we all have for our love of good barbecue and her great love for her man. Instead of appreciating that, you decided to go the low road and ridicule her efforts. Not cool, Chip, not cool at all. We listen to the podcast to learn, to laugh, and to enjoy the sense of community that you all create. But you put someone down like that, it takes away from the experience from everyone. Anything to add?
Am I not supposed to laugh? I appreciate Samantha's efforts, and I thought it was a great story. But sack up, okay? This is entertainment, and it was a laugh, and it's not that serious, okay? We're talking about smoking meat here, not doing brain surgery. So I appreciate you, and I apologize if I offended anyone. I don't really apologize if I offended anyone. Ric Flair always said, have them love you or hate you. Either one is good. So that's what we're going to go for that.
All right.
Deuces.
Well, so here's the PS, and this is in Fredo's handwriting. So I don't know if he got past second grade, but he said, this is not a true email from the listener, and neither was Samantha's. Sometimes I find myself empty-handed on episode nights, and I take it upon myself to ghostwrite these emails. That bastard. Chip knew that Fredo wrote that email last week.
I knew that
Samantha
Sam was
too.
not a real person, guys.
And I think
there's
that's
a dirty little secret.
I think that's why he took the liberties
That's exactly why
that
I
he
took
might
the
have.
liberties.
So while I did, we did hear back from some closer people to the show that it was absolutely hysterical. Those are the people that know Chip and know us and knew that it couldn't have been possibly true. But in case somebody out there did and they got offended like supposedly Deirdre did, you know the secret now. So there you go.
First of all, I just want to say one thing. Okay. If you guys believe that some woman touched her old man's smoking outfit and his gear without permission, him knowing about it, I mean, right there. That's the tip off. Okay, that this may not be reality. Okay,
True.
doesn't
Absolutely
happen.
True. Absolutely true. All right, so that's made guys or whacked. So unfortunately, this week nobody gets made or whacked. Maybe Fredo might get whacked just because he shouldn't be doing that. I mean, he's got to tell us. He can't just be ghostwriting. I mean, God forbid if there's like what happens. Hey Lassie, Timmy's stuck in the well.
Listen.
We're running out of here. We're going to find Timmy, and then we're going to kill Fredo in the process.
Listen, he told us, but he didn't give us enough time to deal with it, and that's kind of why that ugly situation happened. I'm trying to teach him a little bit of a lesson.
It was comical. One of our dear listeners, Kristen, purposely went out of her way to contact me and said, I'm rolling on the ground, pissing myself. That was the funniest thing I've ever heard ever. So there you go. That's made guys are whacked tonight. But please don't leave Fredo in a terrible situation, guys. Get your emails in. Get us your stories. We want to hear what's going on. This is delightful for us. Nobody knows about it. I don't think anybody makes it past 10 minutes of our show. But if you get into the wee hours of the back end of our show, or fast forward to the end, there's always an option.
Or if you're an insomniac.
This is a fun little piece, but we can't do it without your email. So please do that. Also, please, I'm going to say it one more time, like, subscribe. It's important. I want a new Ferrari. No, I don't. I can't fit in them, and I can't get out of them. So I don't want a new Ferrari, but I do want you to like and subscribe to our channel. We got a lot more coming down the road. This is only like our 7th episode.
Seventh episode. Feels like we've been doing it longer, doesn't it?
Sometimes.
We're trying to get better. Hopefully we're getting better every show, and we'd love your feedback. Listen, be honest, good, bad, indifferent. We'd love to hear from you. Love to hear if you got any ideas or tips that you would like to see us implement and make our product better.
I had a question for you.
Okay.
There was another sponsor that was calling right before the show started. Who was that?
Food Vibes?
Yeah.
Listen, Food Vibes is a great food truck operation, and they're really creating a following in Rhode Island and around New England. You can find them at a lot of different events. There's a weekly event at Mulligan's Island on Friday nights that has a bunch of food trucks there, and you can always find Food Vibes at Mulligan's Island on Friday nights, but they're available for private events. I think they're doing a wedding or something this weekend, but I can't remember offhand. But go see Franco and Zach and their crew. They do a fantastic job. You can see their page on Facebook. They have a very eclectic menu, a lot of different stuff. Their Italian egg rolls are not to be missed. Amazing. They do their own slow-cooked pulled pork, and they make tacos out of it, and very, very good.
Where is Mulligan's Island?
Mulligan's Island is in Cranston near the prison, near the ACI. It's a miniature golf batting cage.
It's not with those little guys tied down the giant, right? It wasn't. That was Gulliver's Travel. Yeah, that was. I'm sorry. All right, that's all I could imagine.
I had a tough time in
I'm
eighth
not
grade
going
English.
there. I'm not going there if all those little guys are there. It's not
It
happening.
can be scary. It can be scary, big guy. I know.
I'd like to thank Tommy the Butcher for being here. I got a little secret about Tommy. I'm gonna let drop right now. But first of all, I'd like to thank you. Thank you, Tommy. That was great. This was a great episode. I'm glad you I don't want to say pushed us, but you presented it the way you presented it, because this is important. And I always feel like our listeners that don't know need to know. And I always feel like maybe, kind of sprinkling it in, salting it in, if you will, might get the trick done. But I think it needed its own episode. I would think it was important. So thank you for pushing us with that.
You got it. I enjoyed it very much. And go make friends with your butcher.
Yeah, they're not that
Best
intimidating.
thing you can do.
And yeah, I agree. They're good guys. There was some stupid saying, like, if you want to get a good look at a steak, you're going to listen to your butcher, you're going to stick your head up a cow's ass. I mean, I don't, it's one of the two. I would rather listen to the butcher. But
Which
also,
strangely enough, is where the term shithead came from.
So here it is. I'm going to drop the news. So Tommy's going to have a regular episode with us on Shorts, maybe weekly, maybe bi-weekly or bi-monthly. I never get it right. But anyways, scored low on the SAT, folks. Anyways, there's going to be a little tip from Tommy, 30 seconds or so, that just comes out. Might have some cuts to show us. He might just have some cooking tips. Like I said, he does it all, and he wants to share. So we'll be getting those rounded up for you and out. So look for those. That's awesome. And then, of course, Charlie, next week we're going to be flying solo. We do our monthly solo bid, and I think we're going to get some football done, aren't we?
Yeah, we're finishing up the first official weekend of the NFL, which brings me to the fact, guys, what do you like this with Patriots versus Bengals at Cincy? What's your pick? I want to hear it.
Yeah, what's the spread?
Mr. Vegas. Mr. Vegas.
I think I smell a rat.
Anyways.
I think it's around 7. 6.5, 7, but I'm not on point. Pat's getting.
All right, cool. All right, well, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. And please like, subscribe, smash those buttons, make us top of the charts. We're getting there. We're 7 episodes in. We're gonna kill this stuff. And look for us at some competitions. I'm traveling to Marshall's competition, Marshall's Field up in Quincy, Mass. This Saturday. For a competition up there. We're both going to be at Miller's Crossing.
Miller's Crossing on the 14th, I believe.
Yep, and all this information is in our blog website, Rhode-IslandBBQnews.com, or if you can't type those wonderful 2 little letters RI, you can always find us at BBQnews.com. So please check out those blogs and information and competition notices there. Like, subscribe on this channel, and look for more good stuff to come.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Then one last comment.
Yeah.
We mentioned Miller's. The event at Miller's is for Friends of Jake, and it's a great charity. So if you can get out there, find the details on the NEBS.org website, NEBS, Northeast Barbecue Society.org website, and click on events, and you'll see the event at Miller's Crossing, and there's tickets still available. It's going to be a great time. We're going to be there, live music, food, and it's for a great cause.
It's a blast, I heard. I can't wait to see it firsthand. And yeah, you can also find the information on RIBBQ News. It's on Saturday the 14th. I heard the weather's supposed to be spectacular.
That's what I do.
Yep. So please, get it. Get the kitty cats home from school that week. Get all their lunches packed for next week, and get out there and have some fun. Great. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here, and stay well. Keep barbecuing.